Have you ever woken up in the dead of night, your eyes wide open, your mind fully aware, only to discover you cannot move a single muscle in your body? You try to scream, but no sound escapes. You try to breathe deeper, but your chest feels caged. And then, as if summoned from the unseen, a dark presence appears, watching, hovering, sometimes even pressing down on your chest. You are paralyzed, utterly still, while something not of this world stands near. To the modern world, this is a disorder. A glitch in the sleep cycle. A strange neurochemical hiccup. But to the mystics of old, this was something far more sacred. Far more terrifying. And ultimately, transformative. In ancient esoteric traditions, whether among the desert prophets, Himalayan sages, or mystics hidden deep within the catacombs of forgotten temples, sleep paralysis was never considered random. It was a trial. A threshold between the physical and the spiritual. A gate that, when crossed consciously, could lead to enlightenment or madness. They believed that sleep paralysis was the moment when the veil between dimensions thinned. When the soul hovered between two realms, the body asleep, the spirit awake. And in that threshold, the seeker faced their deepest fears, and sometimes, their truest self. But why did so many cultures, so many lineages, regard this state as sacred? What did the ancient texts say about this mysterious paralysis of the night? And how can we, today, approach it not with fear, but with understanding, even reverence? In this video, we will peel back the layers of modern skepticism and descend into the heart of mystery. We'll explore how spiritual traditions viewed sleep paralysis not as a medical anomaly, but as a rite of passage. We'll uncover teachings from ancient Egypt, early Christianity, shamanic paths, and Eastern mysticism. And most importantly, we'll learn how this terrifying experience might actually be a doorway to spiritual awakening. This is not just about sleep. This is about the battlefield of the soul, and what it takes to cross from fear to freedom. To understand why sleep paralysis was once seen as a spiritual trial, we must first set aside our modern lens. The ancients did not divide reality into neat boxes labeled science, religion, and psychology. For them, everything, dreams, visions, illness, stillness, was part of the great mystery. And sleep paralysis? That was a moment when the soul approached the sacred boundary. Let us begin in ancient Egypt, a civilization steeped in mystical knowledge. The Egyptians believed in a subtle body known as the Ka, a spiritual double that could separate from the physical form during sleep. In sacred texts like the Book of the Dead, the soul's journey through the night was described as a perilous trial filled with demons, guardians, and tests of truth. If one awoke and could not move, it was seen not as illness, but as a sign the Ka had not fully returned, or worse, that it was caught between dimensions. Only the spiritually attuned could withstand the crossing. Travel eastward, and we find Hindu yogic philosophy echoing the same sentiment. In ancient Upanishadic thought, deep sleep and the threshold of waking were moments when Atman, the soul, merged closest with Brahman, the Absolute. Yogis spoke of Turiya, the fourth state of consciousness, beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It was within this liminal space, neither here nor there, that the soul glimpsed the infinite. But to reach it, one had to pass through fear. Sleep paralysis, then, was not a malfunction, but a spiritual gate, guarded by illusions. In early Christian mysticism, particularly among the Desert Fathers and monastic hermits, night terrors were a well-known spiritual phenomenon. Saint Anthony the Great, the founder of Christian monasticism, described being visited by dark entities during the night, pinned to the ground, unable to move or cry out. But rather than flee, he faced them with unwavering faith. In the writings of these mystics, such attacks were not seen as punishments, but as spiritual trials, designed to test the resolve of the soul on its path to God. In fact, the inability to move or speak was considered a stripping away of worldly control, a surrender to divine will. Among indigenous shamanic traditions, particularly in the Amazon and Siberia, paralysis during sleep was interpreted as the calling of spirits. Shamans in training were often visited by beings during their sleep, spirits that pressed down on them, paralyzed them, and sometimes pulled their consciousness into other realms. This was not pathology. It was initiation. If the initiate gave in to fear, they failed the test. If they surrendered and journeyed inward, they gained knowledge from the spirit world. Even in medieval Europe, before the rise of mechanistic science, sleep paralysis was known, though it was often misunderstood. The infamous old hag phenomenon, where a heavy presence was felt on one's chest, was seen as a demonic visitation. But among esoteric circles, alchemists, Rosicrucians, and early mystics, it was whispered that such visitations were symbolic. The hag was the shadow of the self, the repressed force seeking transformation through confrontation. In all these traditions, sleep paralysis was not random. It was purposeful. It was a crucible of the soul, where fear, control, and ego dissolved in the presence of something greater. And perhaps that's why so many who endure it report not just terror, but awakening. For once the fear subsides, a silence takes over. A strange, powerful stillness. And it is there, right there, that the ancient masters believed the soul could begin to see. To understand this further, we must now turn to what actually happens during sleep paralysis, not just physically, but energetically and spiritually. What actually happens during sleep paralysis? To the materialist mind, the explanation is simple: your brain awakens before your body does. The motor functions are still offline, leaving you trapped, conscious but immobile. It's a neurological misfire, they say. Harmless. Accidental. Just a glitch in the matrix of sleep cycles. But if you've ever truly experienced it, you know it feels like more than that. There's a weight to the moment. A presence. A sense that you're being watched, judged, or perhaps invited. From an esoteric perspective, sleep paralysis is not a malfunction. It is a convergence. A moment when the soul becomes conscious within the threshold between the waking world and the astral realm, the subtle plane that exists parallel to our physical reality. In this state, the physical body is inert, as it should be during REM sleep. But the awareness, the seat of your consciousness, is awake. It is observing. It is aware of being aware, and that changes everything. Imagine it like this: during normal sleep, your soul floats freely, tethered lightly to the body by what mystics call the silver cord. It wanders through dream realms, gathers impressions, processes karma, or even receives divine communication. When it's time to return, it gently reattaches, and you awaken without memory of the journey. But sometimes, the soul awakens before it fully re-enters. And in that moment, you are conscious within the gap, between realms, between bodies, between realities. This state is deeply vulnerable. You are stripped of the illusion of control. You cannot speak. You cannot flee. The ego, which usually steers your awareness, is stunned into silence. And into that silence, something deeper steps forward. The subconscious. The shadow. The unprocessed. Or, as the mystics say, the guardian at the gate. This is why so many report terrifying entities during sleep paralysis. Dark figures. Menacing presences. Even demonic shapes pressing on the chest. But here's the secret: these beings are not always external. In many spiritual traditions, they are mirrors. Reflections of unresolved fear, guilt, or repressed energy taking form in the astral realm. In Tibetan Buddhism, for example, tulpas, thought forms created by the mind, can become independent entities if left unexamined. What you see in sleep paralysis may be the astral projection of your own buried pain. And this is the trial: to face what arises without fleeing. To observe without judgment. To see without fear. In that stillness, when the mind cannot run and the body cannot move, you are brought face to face with your most primal illusions. And here's where the trial becomes alchemy. For those who pass through the fear, who remain calm, centered, present, something extraordinary begins to happen. The dark figure fades. The chest lifts. A vibration fills the body, like electricity. The room pulses with a strange, luminous energy. And in some cases, the soul lifts. Astral projection begins. This is why many seasoned out-of-body practitioners report sleep paralysis as a doorway. A launch pad. Not something to avoid, but something to master. But mastery is not easy. Like any rite of passage, it demands courage, clarity, and surrender. You must learn to discern illusion from truth, fear from intuition, projection from presence. And above all, you must remember, the paralysis is not punishment. It is preparation. You are being called to a greater awareness. To rise, not with your body, but with your spirit. Now that we understand sleep paralysis as a gateway, a moment when awareness pierces the veil, let us journey deeper into what this state reveals, and why the ancients revered it as a spiritual trial. To the uninitiated, the paralysis is terrifying. But to the adept, to the seeker, it is a signal, you are close. Close to what, exactly? Close to the liminal realm, the twilight zone of consciousness where the soul is unbound. The Sufis called this the alam al-mithal, the imaginal world, not imaginary, but imaginal, meaning more real than real. In Kabbalistic thought, this threshold between worlds is the Yesod, the foundation, through which divine energy flows from the higher realms into physical manifestation. And in Hermetic teachings, it is the plane of the astral body, where the magician learns to travel beyond the illusion of matter. When you enter sleep paralysis, you're standing at the edge of this world. And yet, the edge is guarded. Not by demons in the Hollywood sense, but by tests of consciousness. The paralysis brings you face to face with your own vibrational frequency. Whatever is unhealed, suppressed, or denied rises to meet you in form, because here, thoughts and emotions crystallize into visible shapes. Fear becomes shadow. Guilt becomes pressure. Shame becomes presence. This is why so many describe seeing a shadow figure in the room during paralysis. In Jungian psychology, the shadow self contains all we deny in ourselves. In the astral realm, this shadow is not theoretical, it is tangible. A form you can feel. Sometimes see. Occasionally hear. But here lies the deeper truth, these forms are not there to torment you. They are threshold guardians, archetypal tests meant to see if you are ready to rise. Think of mythic stories. Before the hero enters the underworld, they are always challenged. Odysseus had to descend into Hades. Orpheus faced silence. Christ, in Christian mysticism, descended into the depths before resurrection. Always, before ascent, there is descent. Before light, shadow. Before awakening, paralysis. In sleep paralysis, you are undergoing a mini-death. The body is silent. The ego is paused. All you have left is awareness, naked and raw. In that state, you are shown what you truly fear. Not because the universe is cruel, but because fear is the last veil. Once you face the fear without feeding it, once you choose observation over reaction, the scene shifts. The room brightens. The pressure lifts. The air becomes electric. Many describe hearing a high-pitched tone or feeling intense vibrations. These are classic signs that your energy body is beginning to separate. The silver cord is stretching. The gate is opening. And if you surrender, if you allow, rather than resist, you can consciously exit your physical body. In this state, you can explore the astral realms. Meet spiritual guides. Revisit past lives. Receive teachings not accessible in the waking mind. Some even report spontaneous healing, downloads of information, or encounters with beings of light. But none of it is given freely. It must be earned through courage, clarity, and presence. This is why sleep paralysis was respected by mystics. It wasn't feared. It was honored. It marked the threshold between illusion and truth. Between self and self. Between sleeping in the world and awakening to the real. And here's the paradox, the more you resist it, the more terrifying it becomes. But the more you surrender, the more it becomes a sacred passage. You are not meant to fight it. You are meant to pass through it. Now that we've unraveled the deeper meaning behind sleep paralysis, the question becomes, what can you do with this knowledge? How can you turn moments of terror into moments of transcendence? Let us begin with the most essential truth: sleep paralysis is not your enemy. It is an invitation. But like all sacred invitations, it must be met with intention, preparation, and awareness. Here are several steps and techniques to help you not only navigate sleep paralysis, but use it as a gateway to spiritual awakening. 1. Shift your perspective from fear to curiosity the moment you feel sleep paralysis begin. Resist the urge to panic. Yes, your body feels frozen. Yes, your breath may feel shallow. But remember, you are safe. Tell yourself this. Repeat it internally. I am safe. I am aware. I surrender. Fear feeds the lower astral. Curiosity opens the door to higher realms. The key is to stay present. Observe. Don't resist the experience, invite it. 2. Anchor your awareness with the breath. While you may feel you can't breathe deeply, the breath is still moving. Shift your focus to the rhythm of your breath, however subtle it is. Each breath becomes a mantra. Each inhale and exhale a tether to your inner peace. This simple act grounds your awareness, keeps panic at bay, and helps you maintain consciousness within the paralysis. 3. Use sacred phrases or names in ancient traditions. Invoking sacred names during liminal states was common. The name of Christ, YHWH, OM, Allah, or any mantra aligned with your spiritual path can serve as a protective and empowering vibration. Softly repeat the name in your mind. It strengthens your spiritual field and helps dispel shadowy or fear-based forms. 4. Observe without judgment. If a presence appears, whether it seems frightening, silent, or simply unknown, do not immediately label it as evil. Observe it. Ask inwardly, what do you represent? What are you here to teach me? This shifts your role from victim to seeker. You are engaging with the inner world consciously. And remember, what you face may be your own shadow seeking transformation. 5. Practice conscious exit techniques. If you feel the telltale signs, vibrations, buzzing, floating, know that you are close to an out-of-body experience. Try the roll-out method. Imagine rolling your energy body to the side, out of your physical shell. Or use the rope technique. Visualize yourself climbing an invisible rope above your body. These methods, practiced calmly, can help you transition from paralysis into full astral projection. 6. Prepare before sleep. Your daytime choices affect your nighttime thresholds. Reduce heavy food, screen exposure, and emotional turbulence before bed. Engage in prayer, meditation, or journaling. Set a clear intention. If I enter sleep paralysis, I will remain calm and conscious. Over time, this programming shifts your relationship with the experience. 7. Record and reflect. Keep a spiritual journal. After every sleep paralysis or astral encounter, write it down. Look for patterns. What emotions surfaced? What symbols appeared? What changed afterward in your waking life? These reflections can reveal messages from your higher self, your guides, or your soul's own healing process. 8. Respect the power of the threshold. Do not treat this lightly. Sleep paralysis, when used with reverence, can be one of the most transformative spiritual experiences available without plant medicine or external rituals. But it requires maturity, grounding, and humility. You are touching the edge of the veil. Walk with wisdom. With time and practice, what once felt like a nightmare becomes a sacred rite. You become the calma in the storm, the watcher in the stillness, the soul who walks between worlds, not in fear, but in freedom. In the silence of the night, when the world sleeps and your body lies still, there is a moment, a sacred, trembling moment, where something ancient stirs. Sleep paralysis is not a curse. It is not a disorder to be feared or dismissed. It is a gateway, a test, a moment of raw, unfiltered truth where your soul, stripped of all distraction, faces the mirror of the unseen. Across centuries and civilizations, from Egyptian temples to Himalayan caves, from desert monasteries to tribal fire rituals, seekers encountered this same moment and understood its power. They did not flee it. They entered it. They passed through the fear and found freedom. You, too, are being called. Not just to understand, but to experience. To stop running from the unknown and instead meet it with reverence. Every time you wake frozen, every time your breath shallows and the shadows rise, you are standing at the threshold. The veil is thin. The invitation is open. So the next time it comes, do not panic. Be still. Be aware. Be ready. You are not being attacked. You are being awakened. And in that stillness, in that silence, if you listen, you may hear the echo of those who came before you, whispering through the darkness, "This is the trial. Rise, seeker. The path is open." If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. Keep a journal. Explore the techniques we've shared. And above all, continue your path of inner awakening. Because this is only the beginning.